Hi. First of all, I'd love to welcome David John Roche. Hi, Dave. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good. I'm fine, thanks. It's lovely to see you, and I'm sorry it's not in person.
No, for sure, for sure. That time will come, hopefully.
Yeah. I'd love to ask you some questions, a little bit about yourself and your music, because you were actually going to be one of the featured composers this year at the festival, weren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I was really lucky to be offered a commission for the BBC National Orchestra of Wales and a commission for solo piano for Hugh Watkins and Sue and Reese. And yeah, they're both, everyone involved in that would have been an incredible musician. So it's just just one of the unfortunate side effects of the pandemic, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's fantastic that actually that was coming on the back of the wonderful work that you did in last year's festival, because you were the composer who marshalled 10 of us to write pieces for Astrid, the Dutch street organ.
For
And
sure.
you actually it was you and Francis Stapleton that put that whole thing together. So that was a huge amount of work for you. Yeah.
Absolutely, but as with anything, it's always worth it. I think it was a particularly challenging project, but I think it was also my most performed piece I've ever written. So the scales balance out. It was also
Well,
yeah, I've never ever done anything like that in my entire line of work as a composer either. So it was really, everyone always says like, oh, this is unique or that is unique, but I really think yeah, there was only one of those Astrid organs, and there was, I've never done a project that even remotely resembles that at all. Yeah, and it's good to be challenged, and it's good to do unusual things. The first footsteps.
indeed, indeed. Well, I just want to ask you a bit about yourself and the music that you write, because you write music for, I mean, as we've just heard, everything from street organs to full orchestras, including orchestras with vacuum cleaners. So,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I write for anything I can really. It's all about getting under the skin of what's going on. The project with Dyson is also one of the up there on the most unusual things I've ever done list, I think. Yeah, but again, the totally amazing orchestra. The Orion Orchestra are just filled with the best people. Yeah, every musician in that ensemble was absolutely incredible, and Toby Purser, the conductor as well, is also incredible. It was just amazing to be in a situation where I remember when it started, I said, what instruments can I use in the orchestra? And they were just like, well, what do you want? And I'd never been confronted with that before. So I just kind of had to, yeah, you had to really focus in on what you wanted to produce rather than um, having to, write to a brief as much. Yeah, so even though it was really unique and really specific in some ways, it was also this vast plane of whatever you wanted to do.
but you've done amazing things, right from the start of your kind of career as a musician, because you really started off with rock music. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely see myself as coming out of that sort of tradition. There were loads and loads and loads of bands when I was growing up in South Wales, and the huge community music making scene was there, and yeah, I totally learned how to write music, record music, and play music almost exclusively through that. Really, I learned to play guitar first, and then I learned to read music to go and study music later on. So yeah,
Right.
it's so I've been reflecting on that a bit lately, and it seems, yeah, I don't know, it's occasionally difficult to remember that actually that was my beginnings. And yeah, I think my music still reflects it, and I still think the core of my interest is in those kind of cool riffs and cool ideas and that really primal excitement of playing music, I think.
Yeah, a sense of real curiosity and kind of fun and exploration comes across in your music, no matter the forces that you write for, or the kind of sounds that you're making. Just, but you also had experience with brass bands, didn't you, in Tredegar as a cornet player?
Absolutely, absolutely. So my very first instrument was actually the cornet. So I did learn to read some music with that, and that was how I got the nuts and bolts of it. But I mean, I couldn't play I could play up to about grade 5 cornet in a band, and all that was all, you know. So you know, I'm pretty good. No, but it was you know, it was all free, and the instruments, the tuition, everything was free. And much like the rock music, everyone participating in that music making loved it, was incredibly involved in it, and really believed deeply in the value of it to themselves and to the communities that they were in. And I think it's good to see a resurgence of that actually in Tredegar at the moment, with some brass bands and community bands. I think that is something that is massively important. I wouldn't have learned to be a rock musician if I hadn't bothered to play an instrument at the town hall. Yeah. And I certainly wouldn't have gone on to learn to read music to a higher level if I hadn't been taught the nuts and bolts there, because I never would have been able to do that by myself. So, you know, there's, yeah, two little kernels of heritage in there, I think, that are valuable, not just for me, but for anyone who can get hold of them.
And that, my sense is that importance of community and self-worth and self-expression and identity are really, they actually come through the music itself. Am I right in that?
I think so. I really, really feel like many people, including myself, derive an immense sense of self identity and self-worth through the music that they make. And I don't think I would have had access to that if I hadn't had access to that early education through community music making. Yeah, I know it's if you're from a place that doesn't value these sort of things relating to self-esteem, or doesn't push you to do things, learning about them can be really exhilarating and motivating, and can, just knowing that you can do stuff by yourself can be a really, you know, liberating thing. And I think all of that is learned through the community music making. And yeah, you know, I get excited about it, and I get excited to play the music and write the music, and then hopefully that comes through in the music.
Well, it certainly does. And we're about to hear you actually play your Tremolo Study number 4, I think it is. But that it's part of a series of tremolo studies that you've written.
Yeah. I when I started studying for my undergraduate degree, I probably shouldn't say this, but I couldn't really read music very well. I went to my first guitar lesson, and my teacher said, "You need to learn some classical guitar." He gave me Memories of Alhambra, and then I thought, I can't do this. So I went out, and I was very lucky to get a scholarship, and I went out and I bought a classical guitar, and I learned Memories of Alhambra. Now, because it was the only thing I could play on classical guitar, I got bored of playing it for like 9 months. So I started writing other pieces. And now I have my little book of tremolo studies.
That's absolutely fantastic. And speaking as an ex-guitarist myself, I salute you.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
I can't say I'm still a bit rocky, but you know.
No, it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. And without further ado, I think we should listen to you playing. Thank you so much, Dave. Keep safe, keep well, and all the best, and look forward to seeing you and hearing you in person very soon.
You too, Steph. Thank you.